Okay, this is Mr. Gilman. Today we're going to combine like terms and solve some equations using the distributive property. So when we're solving equations, when we're using the distributive property, okay, the first thing we're going to do is distribute. Okay, and you're going to know because right off the bat what you're going to see is you're going to see a pair of parentheses in the equation. Okay, and so you see those parentheses in the equation, you know you're distributing. All right, then after you distributed, you're going to combine like terms. There should be some terms to combine. If there's not, do your best. Okay, move on to the next step. You want to get your variables on the same side of the equation, just like we have done in the past here. Okay, so you want all your variables on one side and everything else on the other. Put all your variables together, combine like terms, and then you should have an equation. It's probably going to be a two-step equation where you add or subtract first, multiply or divide second. All right, and so once you do all those things, you should have a nice little solution there for your whatever the variable is. All right, so let's look at this first problem here. It says solve 3 times the quantity x minus 1 equals 2x plus 5. Now, step 1 right away, as soon as you see parentheses in the problem, you know you need to distribute. Okay, and since we've been practicing the distributive property in our combining like terms, everyone should be pretty familiar with it. What we're going to do is this. The number in front of the parentheses, because there's no sign in between here, we know it's multiply. So I'm going to take this 3 times both x and times negative 1. Now remember, a lot of you are going to be tempted to multiply it by positive 1. However, it's a negative 1, so you're going to multiply, say 3 times x is 3x, 3 times negative 1 is negative 3, and that's equal to 2x plus 5. Okay, so the first step is the distributive property. You take the number in front of the parentheses and you multiply it by both numbers inside the parentheses. Nothing else changes. Now, if there was a way to add like terms here, that's the next thing I would do. Okay, on my left side of my equation, I don't see any like terms over here, so I can't add anything together. I don't see any like terms on the right hand side either, so I can't add anything together over there. Now it looks like an equation we solved yesterday. We have a variable on both sides, but we need both of the variables on the same side. So we can either subtract 3x from both sides and get the x's on the right, or we can subtract 2x from both sides and get the variables on the left. I like my variables on the left, so I'm going to subtract 2x from this side, subtract 2x from this side, okay, of my equal sign, and then I can combine some like terms. On the left-hand side, I have 3x minus 3 minus 2x. I know the x's are like terms, so I can combine them. 3x minus 2x is x. And I still have my negative 3 here, so I'm going to put minus 3 equals, on the right hand side, I know that 2x minus 2x, these are the like terms, they cancel out, and so there's no more x's on the right hand side. That's what I wanted to happen. I wanted all my x's on the left. That's good that they all canceled out. So all I have left is this positive 5, this plus 5. I'm just going to write 5 over there, positive 5. Alright, so I'm almost done solving it. Now all I got to worry about is getting rid of this negative 3. I'm going for my variable on one side, everything else on the other. To get rid of a minus 3, I add 3 to both sides. X equals 8. And there's my solution. Alright, so today, like I said before, all we're doing is we're adding in the distributive property as our first step. Just adding one more step to this stuff. Okay, you might get one a little challenging. One like this, where once again, as soon as you see those parentheses, first thing you do is distribute. Whatever number is in front of those parentheses, you multiply it into both parts. So in this case, we have this negative 2 out here. I'm going to multiply it by the x and by the negative 3. I do not multiply it by the positive 2. That's not in the parentheses. So I'm taking negative 2 times x is negative 2x. I'm taking negative 2 times, now be careful here, this is really a negative 3. A negative times a negative is a positive 6. I still have this plus 2 out here, so I'm going to write him down. And it's equal to negative 4 plus x. Nothing changed on the right hand side. Okay, so that was step 1, distribute. Step 2 says combine like terms. Alright, so if I'm combining like terms, on the left-hand side, I see that I have a number 6 and a number 2. Numbers are like terms with one another. So I can add the 6 and the 2 together Nothing can add with this negative 2x, so I'm going to write him down. Negative 2x, 6 and 2 make 8, equals, on the right hand side I don't see any like terms over here, so I'm just going to leave it, negative 4 plus x. Nothing's going to change there. Okay, I've added my like terms, I've combined my like terms. The next step is getting all the variables on the same side. And once again, I like all my variables on the left, so let's just go ahead and move this x. And when I say the left, I'm talking of the equal sign. I'm going to subtract x from both sides, and what that's going to do is I'm not going to have any more x's left on the right hand side. I'm just going to have x's on the left hand side. On the left hand side, now I have negative 2x plus 8 minus x. Well, we all know that negative 2x minus 1x is negative 3x. I still have this plus 8 on here, so he's got to stay. And that's now equal to negative 4 plus x minus x. Well, positive x minus an x is 0, so those both cancel out like we wanted them to, and we have left over negative 4. Now, as you can see, we have all our variables on the one side. Okay, it's just x is the only thing that's left, so I can solve. I can continue to solve. When you got a two-step equation like this, remember you're always adding or subtracting first, multiplying or dividing second. I'm going for x on one side and everything else on the other, so I need to get rid of this positive 8 and this negative 3 times x. Add or subtract first, I'm going to minus 8 from both sides. Negative 3x equals negative 12. I've almost solved for x. Now, all I have to do now is see that negative 3 times x, and divide both sides by negative 3. The opposite of multiply is divide, so I'm going to divide both sides by negative 3. I know that negative 12 divided by negative 3 is positive 4. So I'm going to say x equals 4. And there's my solution. So they do get a little more complicated today. Step 1, distribute. Step 2, combine like terms. Step 3, all the variables on one side. Step 4, combine like terms again. Step 5, just solve your equation using addition, subtraction, multiplication. We'll do one more today, show you again. Okay, this time, if you take a look here, our distributive property is actually on the right-hand side this time. All right. So the first thing we need to do is distribute. That's what we're practicing today. I'm going to take this 2 times the 3x and this positive 2 times the positive 1. On the left-hand side, nothing's going to change for right now. I'm just going to leave it negative 4x plus 4 equals now my distributive property. And remember that 2 doesn't go into every single part over there. I'm not multiplying 2 times negative 8 out here. I'm just multiplying it by the parts on the inside of the parentheses. 2 times 3x is 6x. And 2 times 1, positive 1, is positive 2. I still have this minus 8 out here, so he has to stay out there. Step number 2 is combining like terms. And as you can see on the right-hand side, I have that 2 and that negative 8. Okay, those are like terms. This positive 2 and this negative 8. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to change the left-hand side. I'm going to leave it the same again. 4x plus 4 equals 6x. Positive 2 minus 8 is negative 6. So I'm going to put minus 6. Now this looks like a problem now that we solved yesterday. Okay, you try to get all the variables on one side and do what you got to do to solve the equation. I like my x on the left-hand side, so this time I'm going to go ahead and subtract 6x from both sides. That gets all my x's on one side. When I add the left-hand side, I have negative 4x plus 4 minus 6x. I know negative 4x and negative 6x can go together. Those add up to negative 10x. Negative 4 minus 6 is negative 10. I still have this plus 4, so I'm going to write him in there. On the right-hand side, 6x minus 6x, that cancels all the x's out. There's no x's left. All I have left is negative 6. Now that I have my x's on one side, and I've combined the like terms, I just need to solve by adding, subtracting, then multiplying or dividing. I'm going to say minus 4 from both sides to get rid of that positive 4, because remember, what we're solving for is x. We want x all alone. Negative 10, x must equal negative 10. Alright, and I'm almost there. I've almost got it solved for. The last little step would be to divide both sides by negative 10, because right now it says negative 10 times x. I don't want negative 10x's, I just want 1x. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 10. The opposite of multiply is divide. Negative 10 divided by negative 10 is 1, so I know x must equal 1. All right, so one more time. Today, as soon as you see parentheses, you need to distribute, combine your like terms, get the variables on one side, combine some more like terms, add, subtract, multiply, divide to solve the equation.